everybody, Brandon with FastDataScience.ai, and welcome to another episode of This Week in AI, the show where I bring you news and headlines in data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And as you have learned from me before, I use a little bit of my own data science to organize all those headlines, identify some of the ones that I think are more interesting, dive into those a little deeper, and share back with you what I have learned. But you already knew that. So let's go ahead and get started with today's show. So what I want to do first, before we actually jump into the content of the news that hit the headlines this week, is I want to share a little personal information. So for those of you who know me, you know that I am a fine connoisseur of dad jokes. Like take this one, for example. This is a crowd pleaser. Why does a duck have tail feathers? To cover its butt quack. Love that one. My daughter does too. And I'm not just a fine connoisseur or purveyor of dad jokes. No, actually, I'm also pretty good at coming up with dad jokes. But who's even better than me at coming up with dad jokes is my daughter. My daughter comes up with some of the most brilliant dad jokes. Like, take this next one as an example. She said to me one day, Dad, what letter belongs in the toilet? And I said, I don't know, honey, what letter? And she said, P. She got me. Man, she is good. Well, not only is she good, but she also highlights a fundamental kind of issue that I've been having lately with the label dad jokes. If my daughter is better than most dads at coming up with dad jokes, maybe we shouldn't call them dad jokes anymore. Look, I'm not trying to throw dad jokes under the bus or call out dad jokes for being insensitive, but what I am trying to do is celebrate the fact that everybody can come up with really good dad jokes, especially my daughter, and especially this weekend, it is worth celebrating the awesome accomplishments of all the amazing women in our lives. Everyone's got one. Everyone knows what's happening this Sunday, so let's go ahead and give a big shout out before we start the show to all the moms out there, my mom included, my wife included. Fantastic, most awesome, and inspirational people. They have had some of the biggest influences on my life most personally. So here's a big shout out to all the moms out there. We will love you forever, and we will see this image again later in the show. Uh-oh, spoiler alert. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into this week's content. So today is May 6th, 2022, and what did we find sitting in my inbox waiting for me? We found 70 different articles. Those articles were organized into 5 topic areas, which actually really just turn out to be one topic area, because you'll notice that first topic there was just one article that was all about advances in big data, which obviously has implications for data science and machine learning and AI and whatever. Other topics that we found, though, were things related to development. So we'll talk actually about one of those articles about what's developing in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. We had a group of articles all about the X best in AI, like the 10 best tools or the 5 best companies or whatever it was. Obviously, education shows up as one of our bigger categories. Still lots of articles about where to get some wonderful education in data science, machine learning, and AI, if you don't just get it from me. And then finally, tools. I'll also talk a little bit about some cool tools that have hit the market, one that I think is particularly interesting, actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the first article of the day. The first article of the day is all about developments in the field. And here's the development. Artificial intelligence system learns concepts shared across video, audio, and text. A machine learning model can identify the action in a video clip and label it without the help of humans. Okay, so not only is this a tediously long headline for an article, which I find a lot of data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence articles to have really long headlines. But that's not the point here. The point is that this is a really cool example of crossing the boundaries of data, right? So oftentimes we think about different domains of data, and particularly in the case of sort of these newer forms of data, things that were less traditionally sort of easy to analyze, like images or audio or other things. Now data science is creating all kinds of new opportunities with those different domains of data. And what papers like this demonstrate is that actually we can pull in those different domains of data as different sources of information to be able to perform tasks, like in this case, to be able to label things. So what's really, really interesting and cool about this is we have some kind of thing here with cross-sensory integration, right? So does it make sense? Of course it makes sense. It makes sense because we do this even in other areas. We just don't think of the domains of data so wildly different. In this case, we're talking about sort of two different perceptual systems, right? Vision, audio, well, and also speech, right? But what's interesting, or language in this case, but what's interesting here, right, is that actually, if you think about it, that's what we've been doing in data science for a very long time. Whenever we take, say, data from customers' behavior online, and we take gender and demographic data from those same customers and blend it, and we take data from another source and continue to blend it to, build some really robust data science solution. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of these innovations actually just mean that these areas with sensory modalities of data science are getting better at figuring out how to integrate that data and those data sources that are indeed structured very differently than the example I gave you around customer behavior and things like that. And so maybe that's what's truly innovative here, is that what we're learning is we're learning how to bring these very different formats of data together in order to learn from. Okay, so are we training sensory integration models? I think is another really interesting question here. And some questions that we're starting to see in neuroscience around whether or not like artificial neural networks like these large language models actually kind of operate sort of like a human brain does when it's deciding what to say. Do we kind of predict the next word? Well, in this case, I think this model might start to open up some research around whether or not these models integrate across modalities in a similar fashion as our brains. Great research question, but let's take a look at what's happening sort of visually. This article had a really great visual depiction of what's going on. So in this particular case, you have the domain of visual data in the pictures, so a man juggling a ball, and then you have audio data in addition to it. And the machine is able to learn to assign features from both the audio and the image data in order to predict labels. A man juggling and laughing in amusement. So long as those things are lined up appropriately, machines can actually learn how to make those associations. So cool. Okay, all right, let's move on. Next is high-performing age-stratified machine learning models for the prediction of the severity of COVID-19 progression. Okay, I almost ran out of breath. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a second, this is a disease state kind of thing that's going on. That's, we see a lot of this research. Why is this newsworthy? Well, this actually fits within my toolz topic, and I'll tell you why. It fits in my toolz topic because I think this article, while really interesting and also valuable given our current kind of pandemic situation, it's great that we can build models to be able to predict these kinds of things like severity and also understand how that severity is different for different demographics of people. And that's really important. And that's why this article is really cool. All right. So this article teaches us that there indeed are different strokes for different folks. And that is pun intended, and it's maybe in bad taste, I don't know. But the idea in this article was that there are different risk factors of severity and things that happen to people under 50 than there are for people over 50. For example, what they found in this research was that for folks under 50, risk factors for COVID were predictive of things like heart attack and heart failure. Alternatively, for people over 50, it was actually more predictive of things like dementia and stroke. Okay, so what's really cool about this article is that it talks about different ways in which we can stratify our data to be able to further understand how, for in this case, different demographic segments may experience, in this case, something like COVID or disease states differently. And we can use machine learning to help us understand that. What's also really cool about this article is that it's not just neural nets that are cool these days, right? I know there's a ton of research and a ton of media and popular attention that talks about neural nets and GANs and, like look at the last one, right? Like crossing sensory modalities to be able to predict labels and blah, 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 right? Neural nets, they're the rock star of data science. There's no question about it. But There are a lot of other tools in our toolkit that are still super valuable. In this particular case, it was a gradient boosted tree model that was used to develop these predictions and to derive the different pathways to severity. And so it's not just neural nets out there, folks. It's the full toolkit that can still be useful. But there's also something that's really cool about those tools, right? So it's the full toolkit. And you could imagine, right, that there's lots of situations where we often want to classify things into multiple different classes. So I have a recommendation on a tool to make you drool. And that tool was published by Apple. Apple researchers develop, hold on, let me fix this because this is just not going to work out. There we go. Apple researchers, it's still not working. That's okay. Apple ML researchers developed NEO, a visual analytic system that enables machine learning practitioners to generalize confusion matrix visualization, hierarchical, and multi-output labels. Oh my gosh, there's another really long title. Okay, but what's cool about this article is that they've created a system, a way, right, a set of code that allows you to compare confusion matrices in scenarios where you either have hierarchical labels or you have multiple label classes. For example, trying to predict data that have 1,000 labels. Right? You can't create a single confusion matrix. So what this NEO does is it helps to create comparisons across multiple layers of those confusion matrices, effectively creating more data as artifact that you can then use to further understand the predictions of your model and its performance. Also the classes on which it's performing well and poorly under. So really cool, really great visual tool, and something that definitely caught my eye as an interesting innovation. And again, a tool that make you drool. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into what caught my eye for this week. What caught my eye for this week? Oh, wait, there she is, Supermom, but she's no longer Supermom. Nope. Now she is super data scientist. Okay, so what's the article? Why only data scientists can save the world from environmental collapse. Ba-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. Yeah, this article talks about some really interesting things, and there's actually one particular buzzword that definitely caught my eye in this article that I thought was really cool. So the headline's great, right? Makes us all of us data scientists, this should make you feel good, right? You have the tools of the trade to solve a major world problem. We may be humanity's last hope. But in all seriousness, what caught my eye in this article was its discussion around 3 major areas that help to support this case that data science can have a huge impact on environment. And that is the idea that we can create digital twins through simulations and use machine learning and some of our artificial intelligence capabilities to learn from those simulations. The closer we can make those digital simulations reflective of our real experiences, the better we will be able to experiment with solutions. And we can test the effects of those solutions in those real virtualized scenarios and systems. So if you watch Manny Bernabe, I was on his show a little while ago. He talks a lot about digital twins. In fact, I think his last interview was all about setting up digital twins, what they are, why they're useful, particularly in the context of automation. But this is a really great use case for how they could be useful to help us save humanity from the impending changes to climate that are happening all around us. In addition, the article talks about NASA's accelerated research that is happening. They're funding a lot of initiatives associated with all of their satellite imagery that they have, all the satellite data around the world, in order to monitor the impacts of climate change and leveraging machine learning to help us derive more insights from those impacts by blending it with other data sources. And then finally, Microsoft has also developed an initiative called AI for Earth. And so AI for Earth is focused on bringing together money with some of the greatest sort of scientific minds and some innovation in machine learning and data science and artificial technology, artificial intelligence, to be able to help understand how we can improve different ecosystems across the globe. All really great stuff, all really great places for budding data scientists to think about projects, portfolio projects, whatever they may be. There are lots of data sources on climate. There's more and more in the future coming, and so they represent really great opportunities for us to start digging in and getting some of our skills set up by leveraging that climate data. Okay, maybe this show was long, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. These are not the right links. I'm going to get you the right links. They're going to be in the comments, I promise. But thank you once again for listening, for tuning in. Subscribe, share, follow. I'm going to bring you more news. Don't worry, there's going to be more news next week, and there'll be more news the week after that. And hopefully, you'll be able to take away a thing or two about what you've learned in these opportunities for me to talk with you. So if you have any feedback, please definitely let me know. I am happy to respond, subscribe, do the things that I ask everyone. Well, I don't know, everybody does it, right? Okay, have a great weekend. Have a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and I look forward to another week with you next week. All right, bye everybody.